This is me, Miss Peggy. I'm the SRA teacher, and I'm going to be reading to you from Encyclopedia Brown. If you're used to my class, then you know that I always start with a chapter from Encyclopedia Brown. And I didn't want you to miss out on hearing the rest of the book because it's kind of interesting. It's called Encyclopedia Brown Gets His Man. We know Encyclopedia Brown is everyone's favorite boy detective, and the book is by Donald J. Sobel. So we'll read in the chapter called The Case of the Blueberry Pies. Encyclopedia was shocked. He had just seen Chester Jenkins running past the detective agency. He was usually very relaxed. Chester never ran, except to the school cafeteria when it was lunch hour. However, on this day, Encyclopedia hurried down the sidewalk to see what was up. He looked up and down the block. There wasn't an ice cream truck in sight, so why would Chester be running? "What's wrong, Chester?" he called. Chester stopped. He turned around. He was puffing like a marching band. "Oh, man," he said, "I'm in training. I have to be in shape for the Idaville Youth Fair tomorrow." "Charlie Stewart entered his tooth collection in that hobby contest," said Encyclopedia. "Are you going to be running a race?" "Well, not exactly," replied Chester. "I'm getting trimmed up for the pie-eating contest." Encyclopedia was puzzled. Why would he need to do that, to eat a pie? Chester was a cinch to win. "Do you remember how sick those Thompson twins, Jimmy and Johnny, became last year?" asked Chester. "Their mother said the pie-eating contest was disgusting. She said there ought to be a physical fitness contest along with it, and that they should use silverware." Encyclopedia remembered last year. Chester had left the other boys lying on their backs covered with pie crumbs. Those Thompson twins had felt so sick that they'd had to been carried home. "The rules have been changed," said Chester. "This year each boy has only 2 pies to eat, but then he must run a half a mile to the finish line. Whoever's fastest wins." "Hoppin' hamburgers!" exclaimed Encyclopedia. "That's a tough break on you, Chester, because those Thompson twins are fast runners." "I know," said Chester, "but if apple pie is used, I'll have a good chance, because apple pie is my favorite. I can eat it really quickly." "Here's to apple pie," said Encyclopedia. "Thanks," said Chester, and he resumed his running. The next morning, Encyclopedia and Sally biked to the Idaville Youth Fair. It was a city of tents and fun rides crowded into one corner of the old airstrip. The 2 detectives watched the kite flying contest and then the pet show. At 10 o'clock, a whistle blew for the pie-eating contest. 15 boys lined up to hear Mrs. Thompson, who was the twins' mother. She explained the new rules. Each boy was to race to the table opposite of him. On each table were 2 pies. The boys were to eat the pies, using knives and forks provided, and then run a half-mile course among the tents. Whoever was the fastest won. "Most of the running will be out of the view of the judges," said Mrs. Thompson, "but a father will be stationed every 200 yards to make sure that no boy takes a shortcut or cheats." The knives and forks troubled Encyclopedia. "Well, last year Chester won barehanded," he said to Sally. "Table manners may end up slowing him down." "Well, the silverware was also Mrs. Thompson's idea," said Sally. "She thought eating with our hands was disgusting." "Chester still had a chance if the pies were made of apples," said Encyclopedia. "Apple pie is his favorite." "Nope, they're blueberry pies," said Sally. "Mrs. Thompson baked them all herself. She said she didn't want anyone getting sick this time." Encyclopedia saw Chester's chances fading as the boys crouched at the starting line. "On your marks," said Mrs. Thompson. "Get, set, go." 15 boys dashed for the tables. Chester got off to a bad start. He tripped and fell down. When he got up, he was the last to reach the pies, and he fumbled with his knife and fork. After the first mouthful, however, he settled down. He began to eat smoothly, showing the form which had won him last year's contest. Knife and fork flashed like lightning. He overtook the other boys rapidly. "He's ahead!" screamed Sally. "Go, Chester!" "Say," said Encyclopedia, frowning, "I see only one of those Thompson twins." Sally looked at the pie eaters carefully. "You're right," she said. "Which twin is missing? Is that Jimmy or Johnny?" "Don't ask me," said Encyclopedia. "I can't even tell them apart. Come on, Chester." Chester was eating like a true champion. He was the first one to finish both the pies. He wiped his face and started off running on the half-mile course. In a moment, he was lost behind the row of tents. The second boy to finish eating was the Thompson twin. He wiped his face, jumped from the table, and sprinted after Chester. 3 other boys finished their pies, but they could not run more than a few feet. The rest of them gave up at the table. The race was between Chester and the twin. "Chester has a minute head start," whooped Sally. "There's nobody who can hold his pies down like Chester." Now here's a picture where she says, "Go, Chester, go." See, he's eating his second pie. All right. So then it says, so it seemed as Chester eventually came into view again, still leading. Ahead of him stretched 100 yards of open ground. He was almost to the finish line. He was halfway there when the onlookers roared. The twin had burst into view, running like the wind. Chester was still running, but slowing down with every step. The twin sped past him and won by 15 yards. Encyclopedia and Sally were both stunned. When the twin had caught his breath, he walked back and forth, shaking hands. His lips were parted in a big, wild smile of victory. "He sure has beautiful teeth," said Sally grudgingly. "Look at him, strutting around. You'd think he was on a television commercial, doing an ad for toothpaste." Encyclopedia stared bitterly at the twin's white-toothed smile. "Oh, he'll be smiling on the other side of his face soon," said the boy detective. "Chester is the rightful winner." "Did the twin cheat?" said Sally. "You might say the twins cheated," said Encyclopedia. What made Encyclopedia so sure? Now tomorrow I'll post the answer so you can guess, and then tomorrow I'll post the answer and you can see what the answer is. And if you're interested in me reading this to you more, or in taking any SRA or reading comprehension classes, my reading comprehension SRA class will be going again next year. So anyway, I hope you're having a good time on this odd break where we're having the coronavirus and everybody's staying home. So love y'all. Talk to you next time.